Imagine a company so powerful it was named America's Most Innovative Company by Fortune magazine for 6 consecutive years, a company worth over $74 billion, employing thousands and dominating the global energy market. Now imagine all of it was a lie, a carefully constructed illusion that vanished almost overnight, leaving investors ruined and thousands jobless. This isn't a Hollywood movie, this is the true story of Enron. Welcome to Haloless.io. Today we are taking a deep dive into one of the most catastrophic corporate frauds in history. How did a seemingly boring natural gas pipeline company transform into a Wall Street darling, only to collapse in the largest bankruptcy the world had ever seen at the time? By the end of this video, you will know exactly how the smartest guys in the room use magic accounting, hidden debt, and a toxic corporate culture to fool the entire financial world. To understand the fall, we must first look at the rise. Enron was formed in 1985 by Kenneth Lay after merging two natural gas pipeline companies. Initially, it was a traditional asset-heavy business, but in 1990, Ken Lay hired a man named Jeffrey Skilling, a brilliant McKinsey consultant who fundamentally changed the company's DNA. Skilling didn't want to just deliver energy, he wanted to trade it like stocks and bonds. Under Skilling's vision, Enron transitioned from an energy provider to an energy trader. They essentially created a massive stock market for natural gas and electricity. Wall Street loved it, the profits seemed enormous, and the stock price skyrocketed. But there was a fundamental problem: trading is volatile, and Enron's executives had promised Wall Street consistent, massive, and predictable growth. To keep the illusion alive, they needed a new way to report their numbers. This brings us to the core of Enron's deception: mark-to-market accounting. In 1992, Skilling convinced the SEC to allow Enron to use this accounting method, which is typically reserved for trading portfolios for their long-term energy contracts. Here is how the trick worked. Traditional accounting requires you to report revenue as it actually comes in over time, but mark-to-market allowed Enron to estimate the total future profits of a long-term contract on the very day it was signed and report all of that estimated profit immediately. If Enron signed a 20-year contract to build a power plant, they would estimate what that plant might make over 2 decades and log it as current profit today. If the project later failed or lost money, it didn't matter. The profits were already on the books. They were legally allowed to count their chickens before they hatched, and then they lied about how many chickens there were. This loophole allowed Enron to project an image of unstoppable financial growth even when cash flow was actually negative. While mark-to-market inflated the revenues, Enron was secretly bleeding cash. They were taking massive risks and losing billions on failed ventures like a broadband network and an energy plant in India. So how do you hide billions in losses from Wall Street auditors? Enter Chief Financial Officer Andrew Fastow. Fastow orchestrated a labyrinth of what are known as special purpose entities. These were essentially shell companies created solely to do business with Enron. Fastow gave them bizarre names like Chuco, LJM, and Raptor. When Enron had a toxic money-losing asset or massive debt, they would sell it to one of these entities. This moved the debt off Enron's official balance sheet, making the company look debt-free and highly profitable. The catch? These shell companies were backed by Enron's own stock. It was a giant house of cards. As long as Enron's stock price kept climbing, the shell companies could absorb the debt. But if the stock ever fell, the entire system would implode. You might be wondering, how did thousands of employees go along with this? The answer lies in Enron's notoriously toxic corporate culture, driven by a system called Rank and Yank. Every year, employees were graded on a scale of 1 to 5. The bottom 15% were automatically fired, regardless of their absolute performance. This created a hyper-competitive, ruthless environment where employees were terrified of losing their jobs. Teamwork was non-existent. Employees were incentivized to close massive deals at any cost, even if the deals were terrible for the company, just to secure their bonuses and survive the next purge. This culture of greed peaked during the California energy crisis in 2000 and 2001. Enron traders deliberately created artificial power shortages by asking power plants to go offline for maintenance, which caused electricity prices to skyrocket. They gambled with the livelihoods of millions of Californians, all to manipulate the market and line their own pockets. But reality eventually catches up with every fraud. In early 2001, an intrepid financial reporter named Bethany McLean wrote an article for Fortune titled, "Is Enron Overpriced?" She asked a simple question that no one else was asking: how exactly does Enron make its money? The executives couldn't or wouldn't give her a straight answer. Around the same time, Enron's stock began to dip alongside the dot-com crash. As the stock fell, the secret shell companies holding all of Enron's debt began to unravel. Inside the company, an executive named Sharon Watkins sent a brave anonymous memo to Ken Lay, warning him that the company was about to implode in a wave of accounting scandals. She was right. In October 2001, Enron was forced to announce a $618 million quarterly loss and a massive reduction in shareholder equity. Panic set in. The SEC launched an investigation. Within weeks, the stock plummeted from its all-time high of $90 a share to less than $1. On December 2, 2001, Enron filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Thousands of employees lost their jobs and their life savings, which were tied up in Enron stock, while executives like Skilling and Lay had already cashed out millions. So what happened to the architects of the $74 billion lie? The aftermath was just as dramatic as the collapse. Founder Kenneth Lay and CEO Jeff Skilling were both indicted and found guilty of multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy in 2006. However, Ken Lay died of a heart attack while vacationing in Colorado just months before his sentencing. Because he died before exhausting his appeals, his conviction was legally vacated, meaning in the eyes of the law, he died an innocent man. Jeff Skilling, the mastermind behind mark-to-market accounting at Enron, wasn't so lucky. He was sentenced to 24 years in federal prison. After serving 12 years and having his sentence reduced, Skilling was released in 2019. Believe it or not, recent reports suggest he's been trying to launch a new digital energy platform. Chief Financial Officer Andrew Fastow, who built the shadowy shell companies, struck a plea deal and testified against Lay and Skilling. He served 5 years in prison and was released in 2011. Today, in a twist of irony, Fastow travels the country, giving keynote speeches to universities and corporations on the topic of business ethics. And what about Sharon Watkins, the whistleblower who tried to warn Ken Lay? She was named one of Time Magazine's Persons of the Year in 2002 and now works as an independent speaker and leadership consultant, teaching the importance of corporate transparency. The fall of Enron forever changed the corporate landscape, leading to the creation of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act to protect investors from fraudulent accounting. But corporate greed didn't end there. If you want to protect yourself and learn the warning signs of financial deception, check out our Corporate Fraud Red Flags guide linked in the description below. What massive corporate disaster should we investigate next? FTX? Theranos? Let me know in the comments. If you found this breakdown helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe to Haloless.io, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the dark side of corporate finance. Until next time, remember, when a company's profits seem too good to be true, they usually are. Thanks for watching and stay vigilant.